Hey folks, it's Marvin Cash, the host of The Articulate Fly, and we're back with another Southwest Virginia fishing report with Matt Reilly. Matt, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm just trying to dry out. We've been getting soaked down here in the Piedmont of North Carolina.
Yeah, that's been kind of the story of the summer here. It's been, I've really only been smallmouth fishing since about maybe for about a month, with cicadas and vacations and stuff like that. But I don't know how many flash floods we've had in the watershed in the last month, but it's more than 5. And it's just now starting to kind of dry out a little bit, but we've still got some threats of some, we've had tropical storms knocking around, and historically we're rapidly approaching what could be the first hurricane of the season. So I'm hoping that we stay kind of in this pattern that we're in right now. We're getting, some reasonable rain every 4 or 5 days or something like that. But honestly, not holding my breath too hard.
Yeah, so obviously the funky weather conditions have made it incredibly difficult to pattern things, which kind of dovetailed well with a question from Elijah, who guides down in this part of the world for trout and smallmouth. Just kind of, on a day-to-day basis, you've done your homework, your stretches of water, but like, how do you make that decision about where to pull the trigger for tomorrow?
Yeah. Man, if you could answer that, if there was a concrete answer, you'd be pretty well off, I think. But yeah, like you said, I mean, a lot of it, you do have to have that groundwork of knowing, what your different stretches of river look like, how they fish at different, water levels at the, at this time of year. What it's likely going to mean, that number on a stream flow gauge in terms of clarity. And, sometimes water temperatures can change if you're fishing tailwater systems. And, if you've got a firm understanding of all those details, it, the way I look at it is I've got an idea of what I want to do, per the season. So, I mean, this time of year, I'm happiest, and I feel like we're doing our best and putting our best foot forward if we can be, fishing smallmouth on topwater. That's what everybody wants to do, catch some really big fish that way. But, it sometimes you can, if you have a bunch of different options, you can find those situations where you've had, dropping, clearing, or, low clear water for, a couple of days, and the water temperatures are right, and take advantage of it. But you can't always. And I would say that's one thing that you definitely have to be careful of, is trying to force something like that. There are times when I feel like that might be the best move. You find yourself in a situation where, the presentation, the tactic that you think might work for big fish for the day is not perfectly prime, but, everybody in the boat's willing to put their heads down and commit to something. You can do that, but it doesn't always pan out. I mean, this summer has been probably one of the least productive or worst topwater summer seasons that I've had in the last 7 years. And again, we're early August, so there's still a lot to come. But with yo-yo and flows and dirty water and cold fronts and all that stuff, it just hasn't set up. And so if you keep trying to chase that, probably going to end up with a lot of, kind of wasted days. So the other thing that I would say is just to keep your mind open in terms of game plans, and try to recognize other potential opportunities. We've had a lot of days this year where, cold fronts and rain have raised the water level, dirtied it up, and those can be really good streamer fishing conditions if the fish, especially if you have sort of lingering low pressure and, um, dark skies and that kind of thing. The fish have sort of linger and aggressive attitude. You can take advantage of that. I've had a couple of days like that this year. Um, but yeah, I would say not marrying yourself to an idea. I always go to the river with sort of a couple of game plans, usually no more than two in my head based on what I see, in the data for the day. And then, you've got to give them a good audition, but, also not be scared to totally change gears and be prepared for anything. I would say that's definitely been the biggest sort of theme this year is just, not leaving anything at home that's not seasonal because, we've been using a lot of springtime tactics with bigger streamers and sinking lines and stuff this summer, a lot of bottom fishing stuff. And there's days too, like I said, I'm always looking for big fish. I'm always trying to this time of year find good, topwater fishing. But a lot of times it's just not in the cards. And if you can, if you find yourself rolling on a program where, you're able to put a number of fish in the boat and that's a sort of an okay compromise, don't be afraid to just kind of lean into that either. You just kind of have to let the river tell you what's the way things are going to go and take it. But yeah, so I would say if you've got the firm foundation of just what all your rivers, all your fisheries look like, in a variety of conditions, the next biggest element is just understanding a wide array of patterns, when the fish are going to be acting different ways. And if you don't see in the cards kind of your first choice, start looking for those other ones, start looking for other opportunities. And there have been a lot of days this year where, talking about having a lot of rain, there have been a lot of days where I've sort of chased dirty water because, you're either because streamer fishing can be really good in dirty water for smallmouth. But low dirty water can make things more challenging. So there's some situations where, I would almost go to the bottom of the watershed looking for the highest water possible if I know I'm going to have to deal with a certain level of clarity, just to be able to play that game. Lower water might be better for trying to do some topwater stuff, but at the end of the day, is it really going to be all you want it to be? Probably not. And so, go down, find some better streamer fishing conditions and roll those dice, So that's something that I've really had to do a lot this year is sort of giving up on my primary, my hope, what I'm looking for and just taking cues from the river. And you have a really good day doing something that kind of surprises you, just try to find those conditions again the next time you're out. And don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, and so when things are funky, do you generally try to pick floats that have more varied water so you feel like you can hit maybe 50 or 60% of something, right? As opposed to
that's a great point too. Yeah. I mean, so one thing I've run into a lot this summer is, like I just mentioned, kind of low to average flow, but dingy, dirty water, a couple feet of visibility maybe. And that can be kind of tough, especially in your kind of flatter water, deeper sections, places where I might find bigger fish in the summertime, especially when they're set up eating bugs along the banks. And that kind of water can be kind of tough to approach in those situations. So having some good moving water to fish, runs, shoals, riffles, that kind of stuff can be sort of a concentrating element where, all of a sudden you're not having to search a flat where there's, it's cloudy, water's dirty, not really running that swiftly. So there's nothing to really put a fish anywhere in particular. That's a really tough scenario, whereas if you can go fish a ledge system where you've got seams and pockets and real structure that's going to sort of concentrate fish, that can be a much better choice. So yeah, that's definitely an idea. Sometimes I might just lean more into, again, if I know I'm going to be streamer fishing all day, then I might just look for a piece of water that's going to lend itself to that, So same thing you do looking for, like I said, topwater kind of technical sight fishing situations like I like to do in the summertime. A lot of times I'm going to look for floats that have flats, that have big fish, that are going to have sun that day. They're going to have sun coming from the right angle, the right time. And it's the same muscle. You just gotta use it in another way.
Yeah, and then it goes without saying, we always have to come back to first principles, like having a really honest, frank conversation, with the clients, right? And the clients having an honest conversation with you about what they really want to get out of the day can make a big difference too.
Yep, managing expectations. Sort of, I like to approach folks with a game plan the night before, if I can, especially if I know it's going to be sort of atypical. Most of my clients I've fished with dozens of times, so they generally know what to expect when they're showing up. But if it's going to be something else, I like to sort of brief them ahead of time. And if even if you have a feeling like things aren't going to be great, but we have a good shot at doing X, if we can do this, then present that. And then you get in the boat in the morning, everybody's got sort of a sense of mission. They've got properly adjusted expectations, and the victories count for what they're worth, or what they're worth, as opposed to being, it's like getting somebody in the boat who thinks a good day is catching 10 muskies. If you catch 6 muskies and have a stellar day, they're still going to be disappointed. So make sure everybody knows what every fish is going to be worth that day, and that makes things a lot easier on the client and the guide. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, Elijah, I hope that helps. And folks, we love questions on the articulate fly. You can email me or DM me on social media, whatever is easiest for you. And if we use your question, I'll send you some stickers and other goodies. And we're drawing for some cool stuff from Matt at the end of the season. And Matt, before I let you go, I know you've got kind of like popcorn pop, and you've got cancellations kind of in the late summer. And you can tell people how to kind of stay on top of those. But also, I know you started cracking the books on the muskie fishing for fall, winter. So you want to let folks know kind of where to find you, what you have available, and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, man. I do. So I've filled all of my 9 cancellations that I've had in the last couple of weeks, thankfully. But I do have, I wouldn't really call it a cancellation, but a adjustment of schedule. I have September 23rd open. And then I believe like October 7th or something like that, but that'll be kind of it for smallmouth season, at least the main event. And then, I haven't sent a muskie email out yet, but it's sitting in my drafts folder right now. So, I'm going to push that out pretty soon. I've already booked a handful of days there. And, then we're just looking at the future. I've booked some striper days for next year, some smallmouth days for next year. So, after about, the 10th of January, things get pretty thin usually for me. So if we haven't fished together and you'd like to, reach out whenever, before then, and maybe we can start talking about something. But all my contact information's on the website, which is mattreillyflyfishing.com. And any of those methods of contact work just great.
Well, there you go. Well, folks, as I always say, you owe it to yourself to get out there and catch a few. Tight lines, everybody. Tight lines, Matt.
Thanks, Marvin.